And why does Africa suffer so much?
Because we have resources that interest the imperialists.
I think each and every one of you should understand that. If you are able to put yourself on the front line, to fight until the ultimate sacrifice, as it is said.
In a world where diplomatic languages often a veil for underlying power dynamics, U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett's unscripted words to President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso brought an electrifying shift. Her sentence, "Africa doesn't need saving, it needs to be heard," disrupted decades of Western foreign policy. It was a simple, raw truth that many feared to acknowledge. But in that moment, Crockett dared to speak it loudly and unapologetically.
About left versus right. It should be about right versus wrong. And I am going to tell you that I want us to focus on right versus wrong. The reason that we are struggling right now.
President Traoré, busy in his study, had been briefed on a routine call with a U.S. representative. What he expected to be a typical diplomatic exchange quickly transformed into an unforgettable confrontation. Crockett, seated in a dimly lit studio in Washington, had been under fire in the press for months, castigated for speaking out against conditional aid to Africa.
Going on as it relates to our food, or what's going on as it relates to these firings and how that is impacting, say, our veterans that are trying to go and seek the treatment that they need.
Critics, from media pundits to political colleagues, questioned her loyalties, but she had no intention of backing down. And when the video call began, she made it clear that she was not here to toe the line. "I'm not here to lie for comfort," Crockett said, rejecting the scripted, sanitized remarks prepared for her. Instead, she spoke from the heart, with a fierce honesty that would shake the very foundations of U.S.-Africa relations. She didn't mince words. "We love to talk about aid packages and partnerships, but too often what we're offering is not really partnership. It's control." Her statement wasn't just a critique of the status quo. It was an unmasking of a system that has long manipulated African nations under the guise of goodwill. Crockett had no interest in diplomacy as usual. She wanted to have an honest conversation. She confronted Traoré directly. "Why is it that we, America, always talk about helping you, but never stop to ask what you actually want?" This was a question that had never been asked directly before, and the impact was immediate. The silence in the room was not one of confusion, but recognition. For the first time, someone had dared to challenge the double standards of international aid, and President Traoré, a man who had long fought to protect his nation's sovereignty, felt something he hadn't expected, a profound sense of solidarity. His eyes, hardened by years of political conflict, began to glisten with tears. For him, it wasn't just a question, it was a reckoning, a moment of clarity that he had longed for, but never thought he would receive. Crockett's words didn't just resonate with Traoré, they reverberated across continents. In Burkina Faso, Jasmine's speech was broadcast on large screens in village squares, projected onto university buildings in Johannesburg, and echoed in high school classrooms in Nairobi. The line, "Africa doesn't need saving, it needs to be heard," became an anthem for millions, symbolizing Africa's call for respect, for recognition, for an end to exploitation. In the U.S., however, her words ignited fury. The backlash came swiftly. Media outlets, conservative politicians, and even some of her own colleagues condemned her for undermining the country's image. They accused her of embarrassing the U.S. in front of a dangerous regime. The mainstream political machine was quick to label her as radical, reckless, and unpatriotic. But Crockett stood her ground. She didn't apologize, she didn't back down. Instead, she doubled down on her conviction. Silence is too damn expensive. Her message reached beyond political debate. It resonated with everyday people, the marginalized, the forgotten. From the streets of Baltimore to the classrooms of Nairobi, people who had been silenced by a system that didn't care to listen felt seen for the first time. The phrase "kindness unites worlds," as exemplified by the simple wooden sculpture given to President Traoré by a young boy, became a symbol of this transformation. It wasn't about charity or pity, it was about dignity. It was about listening, not saving. President Traoré, moved by the recognition and respect shown to him by Crockett, took her words to heart. In a village in Burkina Faso, far from the polished halls of power, he stood with the people, not as a leader above them, but as a man among them. And in that quiet moment, with a simple gift of wood in his hands, he understood what true leadership meant. It wasn't about what he could control, it was about whom he chose to listen to. The world may have expected silence in response to Jasmine Crockett's defiance, but instead, it sparked a fire. In Washington, they tried to bury her word, but in Burkina Faso, in classrooms and villages, her message took root, and it spread across the globe. uniting people who had long been denied a voice. The impact of that one sentence was not just in the backlash or the applause.